Good morning, all. So I've had some requests for how I handle Nearpod, and this is by no means the only way you can use Nearpod, but I'm going to show you how I use it, and I'm going to start from PowerPoint and get you all the way to the stage where you can actually use your Nearpod. But it shouldn't take me too long to do that. I'm not going to put a lot of slides in. I'm just going to show you the basics so that you can play around with confidence and do this yourself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our Google Drive. And so you can go up to the waffle here and select Drive. And again, if you are working from Atlanta Public Schools, just make sure that it's your Atlanta Public Schools account that is signed in when you're doing all of this. So we go to our drive. Now I'm going to make sure I'm in my AP World file, just so that things go in the right spot. I'm going to go here to period 0. I'm going to go to PowerPoints, and I'm going to go to detailed PowerPoints. Now, I should point out that all of these are still in PowerPoint like format, right? If you've got a new PowerPoint that you want to add, let's just go for the sake of argument that you do have a new one you want to add. So I'm going to go back to PowerPoints here just to pop this in. You have not put anything in your drive yet, so you've got something on your desktop maybe over here, and you want to make sure it gets into your drive. From that start, we'll go to New, File Upload, and then you'll go to the file from which you would like to acquire it. And so for my purposes, AP World, down to Unit 0, from Unit 0, PowerPoints, detailed PowerPoints, and let's go with River Valley Civilizations. Oh, it's all saved on my cloud. Sorry, it's going to have to get out of the cloud. Okay, perfect. Now it is quickly downloading into my files. From here, I will want to make sure I have it in a slides format. There's a couple reasons for that, but particularly since we're doing this all through Google Classroom, the slides format is going to be helpful. And then from a practical perspective, you need it in a slides format in order to use Nearpod. So we go to Open with Google Slides. And it's going to take it a second to process that request. Here we go. And you see it still has that PowerPoint like ending, that format indicator. We want it in slides. If you look up here, because it's still in PowerPoint, the option for viewing it, for doing add-ons like Nearpod, is not available. So you will need to make sure that you have it in a Google Slides format. So let's go to File, Save as Google Slides. Now it's going to reopen it, and you should note, it might take a second to process this, but if you go back over here, you see now you've got two files. So you've got the PowerPoint version and you have the Google Slides version. So just know it will duplicate it. It doesn't change the nature of it. It just will create a new file for you that does have the add-on capabilities. Now, a few words on PowerPoint to Google Slides. More often than not, it will do what it did for me today, where it just said, okay, here's how your slides are formatted, and it accepts the formatting, and everything is hunky-dory. However, sometimes with PowerPoint slides that are a little more square like this is a 4x3, when they get uploaded to Google Slides, some things can shift. It's kind of like, your baggage can shift in an airplane. So some of your stuff might move around. If that does happen, just go to File and scroll down to Page Setup, click on Page Setup, and so it does have standard 4x3 already selected for me. It was able to figure out that's what the original slides were in, and many of your older PowerPoints will be in a 4x3. What it'll probably go to default as is 16:9. It might default as 16:10. So let's say it did default to 16:9, right? And when it imported, it looked like this. And initially that's okay, right? That doesn't look too distorted, right? It kind of sorted itself out. But look, some of your maps aren't quite in the right spot. Oh, and look, your text is running off the page, so it looks a little off, right? So when it imports, if it doesn't import in a 4x3 and it does import like this, you'll note that difference. And all you've got to do to get it to look right is go to Page Setup and select Standard. and then everything snaps back into place, right? It looks the way it needs to look. Everything is back to where it should be. Now, in that process, actually, and kind of going back and forth, some of my images have shifted. So I'm actually going to go back. Okay, and so here we go. Now my map is the right size. But I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that particular feature. Page setup will save you a lot of trouble if your pages kind of shift in transition. So, talk about Nearpod. Oh, my apologies. All right, we go to add-ons. I've already got Nearpod added on, but if you don't, if you click on Get Add-ons, it's going to take you to G Suite Marketplace. Nearpod is one of the top choices. It will be here at the top. If for some reason it isn't, search apps, click on, type in Nearpod, and it will pop up. But you can see I've installed Pear Deck, I've installed Nearpod. There's a few others that I've installed. There's lots of add-ons. I've also installed Flat Icon. I love Flat Icon. I'll show you that feature just briefly for kicks and giggles. But there's so many things that you can do with slides add-ons, so don't sleep on these. Check them out. Depending again on what you teach, right? Like if you did music or whatever, like there are things, or foreign language, there are add-ons that are super helpful for your purposes specifically. So keep that in mind. All right, so once you've clicked add-ons, get add-ons, and you've downloaded Nearpod, and you go back here, look, it's right there for you. So let's click on Open Nearpod. There are so many things that you can add with Nearpod, and I'm going to show you what they look like on the other side. So you can add in audio, and when you select audio, it lets you upload an audio file from your computer, and you can just drag and drop. It'll take any number of file formats. You can take stuff from your cloud, you can take stuff from OneDrive, you can take stuff from your Google Drive, and you can just upload it locally from your computer. So drag and drop or upload locally. So these audio files will play, and all it does is just play the audio file. So this is really great if you want to give verbal instructions, right? You got some kids maybe who are ELL, or maybe you have kids who are just better auditorily, and you just need to give them that audio feature or function. This is a great way of doing that. You need to record yourself prior using any number of files, but you need to record yourself prior and upload it, but you can totally do that. BBC Video is it's a really cool feature. I mean, if you want to use any video that they have already created, they've got a whole lot of features here. It is BBC, obviously, so it is going to be mostly humanities featured, but look, there are some environmental things, there's some innovation in technology, so definitely some potential other applications, and these are just a few of the options. You can insert these videos. Collaborate. Collaborate functions a lot like Padlet. So if you've ever had a Padlet, if you've ever worked with Padlet, you know how to do this. So you enter a topic, enter a description, maybe a question. So the topic is ancient Rome, and then the description here is something like share with the class share with the class your prior knowledge about ancient, we'll go through River Valley civilizations, river valleys. So go here. Okay. And then once you've put in the topic and you've put in the prompt that you want them to respond to, you can change your format here. We'll go with this one. That's fine. And we'll save. Okay, so I just wanted to do that one for you so you could see what it looks like. And it's going to take a second. It's going to populate with a little bit more information here. So give it a moment. It's going to typically pop in at least the question. There it is. And so this is what it looks like on your end. This is not what it will look like for students, all right? So, but that's what Collaborate looks like on your end initially as you're building it. It's just going to be a slide here letting you know, hey, you put this particular activity here, but when you share it with students, it does look different. But this will be like a Padlet. So students, especially if you're doing this as like a live lesson, students will be able to go in, they'll be able to create sticky notes, and they'll be able to kind of share their ideas. So again, I can show you that in action in just a little bit. Draw it. The draw it slide allows you to either, you can give them instructions here. You can either give them a blank sheet to draw to their heart's content, like, I mean, anything you could possibly want them to draw. You can just give them a blank sheet to draw, or you can add media, and you can, for a lot of these, you can add media, video, or audio instructions. So what do you want them to draw? How do you want them to draw it? And look at that feature there. You can add a timer. A lot of these have the add timer feature, particularly if you need to keep things at a brisk pace. Or if you want them to answer a set number of quiz questions, for example, in a very short period of time, adding timer allows you to kind of make sure they stay on pace. And then here, you can add a background image if you'd like to, but then if you don't, it says students can draw on an empty canvas if you don't upload an image. So if you want them to annotate something, if you want them to draw on a map, if you want them, this is great for map quizzes, for the record, you could add a map here and have them circle countries, shade things in, draw arrows, whatever you want. So this one's really, really flexible. Really love this particular feature. Okay, oh, just kidding. Don't want that. Okay, field trips. Field trips allow you to go, they've got some kind of pre-formatted field trips here. So Nearpod and virtual reality have paired together, and 360 cities, and so they've got all of these pre-done field trips. Again, most of these are best for social studies, but not exclusively. There's at least one of the Great Barrier, no, it's the Anemone Reef, or Glacier Point. So potentially you could think about some of these for like ecology lessons, things like that. So very, very cool. And then the Mars panorama as well. So they've got just a select series here for you. And you do have to select one of these options. You can't go completely rogue. Now it's worth noting that you can totally embed websites for things like Google Earth, right, or Google Maps, and you can use that. But these are the pre-done field trips that you can include for students. Vocabulary I won't get super into, because if you use vocabulary, you know how to work with it, but you can embed vocabulary activities into these slides. You can also embed Flipgrids into these slides. So if you want kids to do something with vocabulary or do something with Flipgrid, and you don't want to send them from your class to vocabulary or from your class to Flipgrid, you can just embed it in the Nearpod, right? So the kids aren't having to run everywhere. They just engage with the Nearpod, and these activities are embedded. With fill in the blanks, you put in a passage. All right, so I don't know. Let's grab a quick passage. I do want you to see what this looks like. So let's go with Declaration of Independence. Now, should I have this memorized? At least part of it, sure, but I don't. So we're just going to copy and paste in this first section. And go back to Nearpod. Oh, there we go. And we're going to paste that in. Okay, and again, you can change the look here if you'd like to. That's upsetting. That's nice. I like that. We'll leave this one. Okay. And you just click words to add to the word bank. So, declaration, now it's in the word bank. States, America, nature, God, political, equal, mankind, separation. Okay, now of course you can do more or less, whatever. It's super, super personalizable to you and to your needs. So you can make this easier or harder depending on the levels of your students. So you might make different versions for honors classes or on-level classes, depending again on your needs. But this fill in the blanks again will look very different to the kids than it does to you. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then there it is. So the kids will see something actually fairly akin to this with a little word bank, and they can drag up from the word bank to fill in those blanks. Graphing calculator here for you math people. Matching pairs are very similar to memory test. Matching pairs, you can create as many as you want, and it's mostly text, right? So you can put your instructions here. You can add a timer if you want to. If you add a pair, it's text or image. So you can, say apple, for example, and a picture of an apple, and then the kids have to drag one card over to the other. No, my apologies, not with this version. They click on one and then they click on the other to indicate that this is a pair, right? I know these two cards go together. So, so there's this, right? Matching pairs. Memory test is a little different. So this is like that game where you're like flipping over cards. So you're going to be uploading images to create a memory test for kids. All right. Nearpod 3D, I have not played a lot with this, I'm going to be frank, but it does include some experiences for kids. So, again, the reason I haven't played too much of this is a lot of it's science-driven. That's really good because I think a lot of the other features tend to be a little bit more social studies inclined. So, in that regard, there are quite a few kind of science items. But check it out. We do have an Aztec temple that kids can explore. We do have, right, ancient times, Aztec temple, castles, Colosseum, Parthenon. So they can get some 3D experiences that are really, really neat using this. But the human body, the environment. So there are some really neat things that they can experience with Nearpod 3D. And this is, I think, a feature that keeps growing. Like when I checked in a couple of weeks ago, some of these didn't exist. So keep looking back at some of these features. Some of these are new. For example, the last time I built a Nearpod, the graphing calculator wasn't there. So they keep adding things all the time. Open-ended questions, that's super basic, right? Nothing super profound here. But it can be great for assessing where students are at. So you ask a question here and it's going to create a space for students to respond. You can add, again, audio instructions here for kids, media, video, just anything that you want them to respond to. You can add a timer, and you can enable student audio recording. So they can just speak to you and they can respond to your question verbally instead of typing it out. So this, again, allows you to differentiate a lot. If you have not picked up on that up to this point, let me kind of drive that home. You can differentiate like crazy using Nearpod with timers, with difficulty levels, with audio, visual. Again, you can use this to reach every single student in your class. And then with PDF Viewer, you can upload a PDF here, and you can just drag and drop, and then students will be able to view that PDF. Not super profound, but I think a helpful one. Poll is pretty nice too. You can, I like poll for like before or after a lesson, just to get a baseline. How are we doing, right? So you ask a question, you can add as many answer options as you want, timer if you want, media if you want, and this can give you just a quick pulse check on how your kids are doing. And if you're doing a live session with students and you've put a timer on this, for example, the teacher view of a live session of Nearpod will let you see these answers roll in real time. So you're going to be able to use this as a real, genuine pulse check in real time with your kids, and I think that's pretty awesome. And then with quiz, I think you can add 10 multiple choice questions with quiz. And with quiz, you can also include media if you'd like to. So especially those of you who are maybe AP teachers and you have to use stimulus-based questions, being able to add media will allow you to have real stimulus-based questions embedded here for kids. It'll be a bit of a pain initially kind of to make that process to put all the media in to build the quizzes out. But again, if you are trying to make this as genuine as possible for those stimulus-based questions, you do have that option. You can level up the questions. And you can add as many answer choices as you want. You can add a timer, so if you want to do like a minute per question, for example, you can do that. And you can add up to 10 questions, and it will grade that for you. Now, PhET simulations are mostly science. So for that reason, I have not played with them a whole lot. Well, science and math. My apologies, science and math. So my math and science teachers, if some of the other simulation options were like not working for you because they were mostly like go on field trips to the Parthenon, here we go. You've got fractions, gene expression, graphing quadrants, lines. You've got so many different things. Please explore these, play with them, and again, they're done by level as well. So if you just want like high school science, for example, you've got acid-base solutions, both an introduction and a more advanced option, atomic interactions, balancing chemical equations. They've got a whole bunch here just for high school science. You've got tons to choose from. So many to choose from. So this is really great for my math and science people. Now, I have not played with Sway. This is a Microsoft program, so I have not played with this. Let me know if you have. Time to climb basically functions like Kahoot. And initially, you might think it looks very kiddie. Some of the graphics can be very kiddie, but actually there's a high school version of this. So with Time to Climb, you answer questions. You can add reference images if you want, but look, they naturally have timers. You can adjust this if you'd like to a different timer. And it can be an image answer or a text answer. You can add answer choices. And then once you've got this quiz built out, which again looks a lot like the other quiz option, it's just a little more advanced. Once you've got it built out, then you can have kids compete against one another, kind of like Kahoot. And so this adds kind of a game, it kind of gamifies your presentation. And guys, you've been champs. We're almost to the end here, video and web content. So with video, you are able to pull from YouTube, or you can upload. So if you just do a YouTube safe search, you can put any number of things, right? Women's suffrage, or maybe you know that you want like a particular John Green crash course video. You can put that in and search. I will say though that not all videos on YouTube will show up. So if you have something in mind that isn't showing up, it may be because it doesn't meet the safe search qualifications. It doesn't mean that what you've chosen is like a bad video clip. It just means it's not one of the first ones that's going to crop up. It's pretty niche. And so if that happens, then you may need to download the video and then upload it manually. Just a word to the wise there. Not all YouTube videos will pop up. And then web content. This is just a website. You can just embed a website here. So enter a URL and kids will be able to click on it and they'll be able to see the website. But there's a little note here that Flash websites may not work on all devices, mostly Apple devices here. And some websites might be blocked by your school, so keep that in mind too. So once you've done everything, you say save and go to Nearpod. Once you've got this, the way you want it, you say save and go to Nearpod. When you do that, and actually, I have no problem going ahead and doing that. Let's go ahead and save and go to Nearpod. You can see it's saving. It may kick back on me, just FYI, because it's a lot of slides. If it does initially say like, oh no, we can't save this set of slides, just say try again. Just click try again, and it will kind of rebuffer and try again. So if you've especially gotten a large slide deck, anything over 50 slides, it's going to initially say, oh, we can't do it, but it will eventually suck it up, and it will do it. And almost there. Now this, of course, is dependent on you having an existing Nearpod account, right? If you did not have a Nearpod account, you would need to set that up prior to doing all of this. I am doing this presentation kind of on the premise that Atlanta Public Schools teachers who already have Nearpod accounts are the ones watching this. So caveat, if you are not somebody who had a Nearpod account starting, I really should have mentioned this at the beginning, you should have a Nearpod account set up, otherwise it won't go anywhere. So, all that said. So here it is, right? My presentation's ready to go, and it's got here a couple of different ways that I can share it with students. I can do it live participation in Zoom, but I wouldn't try this one yet. That's still being beta tested, and I don't feel confident with that personally. But you can do live participation, you can do student paced. What I would suggest personally is do a live participation for students who show up that day, right? Like they show up to your digital class, I would do live participation with them, and then I would put a student paced version in Google Classroom for the students who didn't show up. And that way you've got two different sets of data. You've got the set of data for kids who are with you and the set of data for kids who did not show up, because these will be two separate lessons and this will create two different reports. And we'll talk about reports in just a second. So I actually don't know that I have any reports on this account, unfortunately. But all that said, two different ways to do this. I would like to show you, well, we'll do it this way. So let's say you're doing a student paced, right? You can click here and they'll give you a code that you can share with students, and then students will have to go to join.nearpod.com, or they have to have the app and they put this code in, and then they will be able to engage with the Nearpod that you've shared with them. And then you can toggle this on or off, whether you require student submissions or not. I'm going to leave mine on. You can always go back and view progress and see how kids are doing with the student-paced lesson. And you can also grab the link down here. Now you can email it, you can embed it, there's a code for embedding it. If you click on Google Classroom, it's going to open up the option for you of like posting it in an actual classroom as an assignment. I'm going to talk through why I don't use this feature, but I'll show you how it works for those of you who want to use it. So you'll have to choose a class first. Let's do a throwaway class. Choose action, so I can create an assignment, I can make it a question, an announcement, or make a material. For most of us, we'll be making an assignment, right? You could go and then you can do all of the normal editing here that you want to do. So title, instructions, who, if you want to assign it to specific students or all students, how many points, if there's any categories, topics, when does it due. So you can use all of the different assign features for this. That said, I'm most likely going to use the link option, where I just click on link and it gives me a link that I can copy and paste. Because most of my lessons in Google Classroom will have kind of multiple layers. It won't just be the Nearpod, right? I might have an intro question, I might have an activity I want them to do later. So I want them to have all of that day's materials in one place, and the Nearpod's only going to be a part of what I assigned, so I don't want it to make it like a whole separate assignment. So in that regard, I would just grab the link here, copy, paste it, and they'll be good to go. The other option here would be copying and pasting this link into a Zoom meeting, right? So especially if I was doing a live participation, with students and I wanted to make this, I could make it a Zoom meeting if I wanted to, but I probably already have a Zoom meeting going on, right? I would click on link and I would paste this link into my Zoom chat section for kids to click on and to be able to engage with. So you don't have to make a whole separate Zoom meeting. You can just paste this into the chat and kids will be able to click on it and engage in real time. Or again, they could join using the code, but I just think giving them the link makes things a lot easier. In case you haven't noticed, a lot of this is personal preference. How do you want to engage with this? How do you want to use this? And similarly, the question you've got to ask yourself is, how do you want people to experience this, and how do you want to use the data on the back end? So some things that you can see as a teacher once you've assigned this. You can choose to hide student names when sharing answers with the class, or you can share student names. I would obviously opt for hiding student names for anonymity, unless you're doing like a competition, for example, and you want the option. If you flick through the slides, it's a collaborate board. You have the option as a teacher for approving student comments before they're posted. I'm going to err on the side of yes, I want that option, right? And then you can review and share student comments right here. Now that does mean, of course, that you're going to need to be actively looking here and seeing any pending posts and going ahead and approving them, so that students can see each other's ideas pop up here. So students will see something comparable to this. They'll be able to share their thoughts or images. So what their prior knowledge is. Let's say their prior knowledge is, I know that the Egyptians built pyramids. Right? They can just post that, and look, it crops up here like a sticky note, and of course says teacher. And then students can like it, right? They can interact with it. And then, you can also trash it if the kid can. If they're like, oh no, I regret that, I didn't want to post that. And look, they can also post images too, right? So again, you can diversify how students respond to this. And you can also set a timer, right? The other one that I wanted to show you kind of how it looks from a student view is, oh, I'm sorry, you can only see teacher view here, is the fill in the blanks. So classroom results, as a teacher, you can see the students and their scores, and you can view answers. This is what it should look like. Kids will be able to drag and drop, and this is kind of what they see. They see this with the blanks, and they see a word box down here where they can click and drag up to fill in the blanks. So you, as a teacher, will be seeing this in real time. All right. I don't want to linger too much more on this particular lesson. I just want to show you reports. And again, in this account, I don't really have any reports to show you, but there are two ways that you can access reports for your Nearpods that you have assigned kids. So here, you can click first on the three dots. If you click on the three dots, there is a reports here, and you can export what you've created as a PDF for what it's worth. You can also add it to the school or district library if you want to share the resources that you've created. You can also choose to duplicate it if you want to keep one version a certain way, but maybe you want to make a different version for your ELL students, or you want to duplicate it and make another version for your honors class. You've got some options that you can definitely play with here. But clicking on reports is one way of getting to the reports. And if you click on reports over here, then you're able to see all of your different Nearpods that you have assigned. So let's click on this one. All right, so I did have 19 students participate in this one. So if I click on that, you can see all I had in here was a poll, right? So you can see how many people answered it, you can see how many people skipped it, you can see the names, and you can see what they got right. And if I had a lot more questions here, you would see a lot more kind of different bars show up so that you could click on each question individually and see how students participated, see how people engaged. And then you can also click download, and it allows you to download the results as a PDF. Or, obviously, you could download it as a CSV as well. The other thing I wanted to note here is that, look, I did a trial run, so there's a session here where it was just me playing around with it, so it just says one student, right? And then it time-stamped a second trial run, or no, a second demonstration when 19 students actually participated in this particular presentation. Right, so if you were to do this as, say, a live session with kids, once you ended the live session with kids, all the kids that participated in your live session that you share with them on Zoom, their results will pop up here. But then let's say you did a student-paced version in Google Classroom for all the kids who didn't show up, because you still want them to be able to participate in all of your awesome stuff, right? So you put that separate student-paced link in Google Classroom for those who did not show up. And that will show up as a separate report with a different timestamp. The timestamp will just be when you assigned it, right? Because different students will engage with it at different times. The default for student paced is 30 days. So they have 30 days to go in and complete it. So you'll have two different reports and two different sets of data, disaggregating those who participated live and those who participated independently. So a couple different things there. The absolute last thing I want to show you here with Nearpod, let's go back to the home page, is that if you do not want to build your own, they exist. I wanted to kind of front load this for people who are building their own Nearpods. If you would like to take Nearpods that have already been built, then you can go into Nearpod Library. Now, obviously, your school library and district library might also have some presentations, particularly if your school has already purchased Nearpods created by other people. So if you go in here, it looks like we've got a few that have been purchased or provided by the school. So SEL has been provided for our school, and there's just a few others here. And district library, got it, has a whole lot more, right? So school only had a few, district has a whole lot more, but of course that's also going to include like first grade English language arts, stuff like that. So if you click on Nearpod Library in general, this is where you can find all kinds of resources. So You can click on any of these kind of featured ones. You can click on, these are all created by the publishers. You can do it by subject, you can do it by standard, grade, virtual reality, full lessons, kind of what, warm-ups, professional development. So you can play with this all in so many different ways. But let's say I do social studies, I do high school. I want to do full lessons. I want to do Georgia standards, although that might be really limiting. Hey, look at that. I can click, I've got all these different strands. So if you know which strand you want to focus on, you can. That's US, that's world geography, world history. And I want to do Mesopotamia and Egypt, for example. Heyo, look, I've got all these that have already been created. And because of the nature of our account that the district has purchased for us, a lot of these for us are free. They're here, they're ready to go, and you can just click on them and use them. And so this one is in collaboration with Crash Course, and the Crash Course Ancient Egypt video is actually really good. So this is a video, and if you click on this video, I just want to note that this one has questions embedded in it. So that's the last little feature here, is if you go with any of these videos, they already have questions embedded for kids to answer as they watch the video. And this one that I would actually just use as is. Like I wouldn't reinvent the wheel on this one. Ancient Mesopotamia, this one's going to have, you can preview the lesson if you want. This is going to have information and it's going to have questions embedded throughout. And so you can click on any of these and you can go through it and see if the way it's formatted fits your needs. It's only 11 slides, so that tells me it's not going to go super deep, but with Ancient Mesopotamia, they don't necessarily need to go super deep to get what I need out of it. So they've got learning objectives. Let's get started, an exit ticket. Let's see what we know. There's a little quiz here that kids can take. And you can see, you can read the quiz and go, okay, I think that's a good enough quality quiz. And here's some more questions. Think and reflect. So there's a poll embedded. And again, this allows you to see how polls and questions look to kids. And you're done. So you can preview any of these, and if you like them, oh, I should have noted that, my apologies. Let's say you like it, right? This presentation really floated your boat. Go to Add to My Library, click on that, and it's been added, right? And I can go in and I can add to it, I can change it. If I go back here, look, it's there, right? If I looked at it and was like, yeah, but like I also want some more stuff in there, I can click on Edit, and I can duplicate the lesson if I want to keep an original. And I would suggest doing this for what it's worth. Duplicate it so you keep an original. And then with this one, I can add things, I can take things away. I can't change what this slide says. Like, it just says what it says. You can't edit that. But if I wanted to add other slides and materials, I could do that. And then I can just, let's say I want to add a slide right here. It automatically is going to put it towards the, okay, there we go. If I just say I want a, with content and just slide, just normal slide. It's going to give you some limited, again, this is why I like building in slides. I like building in slides and exporting because I'm not nearly as limited. But you can add stuff to this. And you can change kind of some basic features of the slide if you want to. Again, I don't love it. It's not as easy for me as building in slides and then importing, but whatever. I'll go back to Nearpod. Again, they're always launching new things. So you can click on New, and you can do a lesson in Nearpod, a lesson in slides, or a video. Now this is being beta tested currently, but they do already have some videos going. If you opt for video, effectively what you'll be doing is embedding questions in an existing video, like that John Green video, that Crash Course video. So they'll have questions embedded, and the nice thing about that is you can guarantee that kids at least had to try and watch the whole video. They couldn't just skim right through because there are questions embedded in it, and you'll get a report for that video that shows you that, yeah, they did watch the whole thing. And you can use videos that they have already created for you, or you can use this feature on a video on YouTube or a video that you upload. I have not played with a whole lot of this, so I'm not going to do a whole thing on this. I just want you to know it exists, and it will also create a report for you, and you can check that kids did what you asked them to do. So, I think that's my quick Nearpod crash course. It's not profound, and I think this is something that you really need to play around with a lot on your own. My best advice is to go to your slides and do all of these. Like, do all of these at least once, right? Every single activity, do a version of it at least once. Create like a tester for yourself, and then add with the add-on. I'll go here. Do all these activities. Make a test Nearpod for yourself with all of these different activities. Edit this lesson. And then once you've got it all ready to go and you like what you have, save and go to Nearpod, and then see what it looks like in Nearpod. Play with it. See how it looks for your students. And then once you have a real good grasp of what the experience is like for kids, you should be good to go. Like with many technologies, the most important thing that you can do is play around. The most important thing that you can do is get your hands dirty. Click on everything. Try everything. And then you know what you like and what you don't like. But the most beautiful thing about Nearpod is that it allows you to differentiate your curriculum in really profound ways to meet student needs. It's engaging, it's fun, it allows you to embed all kinds of sensory experiences for students. And I think particularly as we're functioning in a virtual world, the more we can diversify, the more interesting our lessons can be, the better that we are as teachers. So, thanks so much, guys.